How do banks make money if you do not pay for your account? Every time you deposit money into a bank account, something interesting happens behind the scenes. Most people imagine their money sitting safely in a digital vault, waiting quietly until they decide to spend it. But inside the banking system, that money rarely stays still. In fact, the moment deposits enter the system, they begin to circulate. They support loans, enable payments, and help finance economic activity far beyond the simple act of saving. Now, here is the paradox. Many modern bank accounts look completely free. You can open an account, receive a debit card, transfer money, use a mobile banking app every day, and sometimes even earn a small amount of interest. Yet the bank still earns money from that relationship. So if your account appears free and you rarely pay any fees, how exactly does the bank make money from you? Let us start with what most people assume. When customers think about bank profits, they often imagine fees. Monthly maintenance charges, ATM fees, overdraft penalties, transfer costs. Those fees do exist, but they are rarely the heart of a bank's business model. In many countries, banks have even removed them for basic accounts. Free banking attracts more customers, and more customers bring something far more valuable than fees. They bring deposits, and deposits are the foundation of a bank's real business. When you place money into a bank account, the bank does not simply store it and wait for you to withdraw it. Instead, much of that money becomes part of the lending system. The bank uses deposits to support loans such as mortgages, business financing, car loans, and credit lines. Borrowers then repay those loans over time with interest. This is where the core profit engine begins to appear. Banks typically earn more interest from lending than they pay to depositors for holding money in their accounts. The difference between those two numbers becomes a key source of profit. In finance meetings, analysts often describe this gap using a phrase called the net interest margin. Net interest margin simply refers to the spread between what a bank earns on its loans and what it pays on deposits. If lending rates rise while deposit costs remain relatively low, the bank's margin improves. When analysts discuss a bank's performance, they often pay close attention to this measure because it reveals how efficiently the bank is converting deposits into income. You might hear someone say in a quarterly discussion, "Our net interest margin expanded this quarter because loan yields increased faster than deposit costs." That sentence appears frequently in financial reports and earnings calls. It is a practical way to explain how lending activity translates into profit. But there is another layer of the system that most customers never see. Modern banks operate within a framework known as Fractional Reserve Banking. The term sounds technical, but the idea is surprisingly intuitive once you step back and look at the structure. Banks are required to keep a portion of deposits available as reserves for withdrawals. The rest can be used to support lending and other financial activities. This structure allows deposits to support multiple layers of economic activity. A deposit helps a bank extend credit. That credit allows a borrower to purchase a home, expand a business, or invest in equipment. Over time, interest payments from those loans flow back into the bank as revenue. In discussions about financial systems, professionals often explain that the modern credit economy functions because of fractional reserve banking. Without it, the amount of lending in the economy would be dramatically smaller. If you were explaining this concept to a colleague, you might say something like this. Fractional reserve banking allows deposits to support lending activity across the economy while still maintaining enough reserves to meet withdrawals. Once you understand this mechanism, the role of deposits becomes much clearer. Even if your account looks free, the funds inside it help power the lending system that generates interest income for the bank. But lending is only one part of the story. Think about how often you use your debit card or payment app during a normal week. You might pay for groceries, transportation, coffee, or an online purchase. Each time you tap your card or approve a digital payment, the transaction moves through a network of financial institutions. Behind every payment, there is a small processing fee that merchants pay to access the card network and the banking infrastructure that supports the transaction. A portion of that fee flows back to the bank that issued the card. This stream of income is often described as payment processing revenue. Financial analysts frequently mention this phrase when they evaluate banks with large retail customer bases. The more customers use their cards, the more transaction activity flows through the system. Even though each individual fee may be small, the combined volume of millions of transactions can generate significant revenue. In a strategy discussion, someone might say, "Our retail banking division benefits from strong payment processing revenue because customers rely heavily on digital payments." You can see the pattern emerging. A free account attracts customers. Customers bring deposits. Deposits support lending. Customers also generate transactions, and those transactions create processing income. Over time, many customers eventually use additional services such as mortgages, investment accounts, or business financing. In other words, the account itself is not the final product. It is the starting point of a much larger financial relationship. I remember a conversation during a training session with a group of young analysts entering the banking sector. One of them asked a very straightforward question. If banks offer free accounts, how do they still make money? The senior manager leading the session paused and answered with a simple explanation. The account is not the product. The account is the gateway. Once a customer enters the banking ecosystem, several economic processes begin at the same time. Deposits contribute to lending capacity and generate interest income through net interest margin. The payment activity of customers produces steady payment processing revenue, and over time, customers may need loans, financial advice, or investment services that deepen the relationship. From the outside, the account appears to be free. But inside the financial system, it becomes part of a network of economic activity that supports the bank's entire business model. This is why banks compete aggressively to attract customers, even if it means removing traditional account fees. The real value lies not in the account itself, but in the financial activity that grows around it. So the next time someone asks how a bank can afford to give away a free account, you can explain the answer clearly. The account may not generate direct fees, but the deposits, lending, and payment activity connected to it create multiple streams of revenue. And when you can explain ideas like net interest margin, fractional reserve banking, and payment processing revenue in clear English, something interesting happens. You no longer sound like someone memorizing financial vocabulary. You sound like someone who understands how the financial system actually works. Today, try a simple exercise. Imagine a colleague asking you why banks offer free accounts. Answer in 1 or 2 sentences using one of these phrases. That small habit can help you speak more confidently in finance discussions tomorrow. If this helped you sound more confident in your next finance meeting, share it with a colleague who is working on their English too. Subscribe to Learn English Listening for a new lesson with Mr. Wason every week.